Nancy Thornton, I haven't talked to you in so long, but I have connected with you on LinkedIn. I was just telling people LinkedIn is a great resource, but I know you from dance. It's so funny because I've been connecting with a lot of people that I haven't talked to in so long, but I've really been just reaching out on the internet. And it's so interesting how it just brings people together, and especially during this kind of weird, awkward, health, crazy time that we're going through. It's really great to stay connected. And I know that when I sent you the message, I was like, I think we should talk. I think we should get on IG Live and just talk, because you have so much background in the entertainment industry, but also transitioning into tech. And so I know that when I was telling people before you hopped on that we kind of corresponded back when I was doing my dissertation about companies that I could profile, because I had it's just a whole long process. And then now it's been almost a year or so. And so at that point you were with like IBM, I think.
I was working for IBM, as a consultant.
Right. And so then now you're with Google, right?
Yes.
So
correct.
How is the transition from dance, boom, 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 performance, blah, 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 to super into the details of what we're all doing right now?
Yeah. So it was really interesting, actually. So, before, obviously I was working as a dancer and a choreographer, had in my spare time, the luxury to learn about, different aspects of business. And there's a lot of things that are interesting if I think about and challenging about the dance industry. So, I was wanting to learn a little bit more about the business side, and started, I guess the way the path that I took was just through experimenting while I was still a dancer and a choreographer.
Yeah.
So I took some jobs working as a production assistant, actually, for one of the production managers for Kerihilson, actually. His name's Cheney Harp. And that was my first, I think, exposure to the back office of, what does it take to put a tour out rather than performing on stage. Getting the band and the dancers and coordinating the logistics of day of shows on international tours. So I started to get my hands dirty working on some of that and develop some digital skills, and from scratch, really. I remember I met him while I was working for Missy Elliott, and somehow he just said, "Hey, do you know how to use Excel?" And honestly, I don't think I had Excel at the time on my computer, and I had to download it and figure out how to use it using lynda.com. But that was sort of the first step towards me looking at, what other options are there out there aside from on the creative side, and what could I expose myself to and sort of experiment with outside of dance and choreography. And, working in TV and film, you work with producers and coordinators and talent agencies and all of that. So as an assistant choreographer, I also started learning some digital skills in that realm. And it really just started out with experimenting while I was still in the industry.
Yeah. Well, so do you like Excel?
My current role at YouTube, so I work for Google, but more specifically, I'm working for YouTube and YouTube TV as a partner technology manager. So I've gone at this point even deeper than Excel. I'm doing on the left-hand side of me right now is a SQL query I'm working on. So I've gone quite into the weeds. Yeah.
So you've moved past pivot tables, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So when I started this experimentation to sort of continue the narrative here, I took a few classes at UCLA Extension just to test the waters, because I was curious if I would even like school. I'd always wanted to go to school. Really didn't know how that would go. So I took sort of an intro to public relations and business plan modeling. And I really enjoyed it and applied some of it to projects in the dance community. I was working with Fanny Pack at the time to help them with their America's Best Dance Crew reboot, which was really neat. We did some PR for that, and then started teaching myself how to code, which I found out that I really liked. And I ended up going back to school full-time for undergrad at Columbia in New York to study computer science. So that's where the sequel sort of started there. But it was to your original question, like, what was that like? It was such a drastic change, I think, to go from being a performer and a creator to someone that was a knowledge worker. But I think a lot of the skills of being a dancer apply to both. Mainly the work ethic that we have as performers. We're like eternal students, and I think dancers universally are not intimidated by not getting something the first time around, and we'll just keep working and working and working until we get it. So that skill set, I think, is what really helped carry through from like the creative and performing side into what I do today.
And when you were like in March, when everybody went to online everything, were you in an office or were you already working at home?
I was in an office. Yeah. So I was working in an office.
Is that hard? Like, hey, now I don't have the interaction? Because I know that this is another thing that translates very well from, just, people working in an office to now having to work at home is dancers and dance studios having to work from home. So how has that transitioned for you?
I think for me, it's a little bit easier because the company that I work for is so like digitally mature that we already have habits of video conferencing, like the video's on by default, and a lot of our tooling is cloud based. So, it wasn't, luckily for me, I think the thing I miss the most is like whiteboards and human interaction, but, I don't know, the cadence didn't really change of meetings, and the way that we're interacting is relatively similar. So that was good. I think the big difference is I'm sitting at my dining room table, and I don't know if you can hear him, but my husband's in the background also on a call. So we're basically co-workers now. So that's
nice. Well, it was funny because at the beginning of this, I looked at my husband and I say, we're either going to, really get along or we're getting divorced by the end of this. And I went to the store, I said, I'm getting these emergency, Don Julios just in case.
Exactly.
Well, so what do you find might be the most helpful, just as far as knowing both sides of it? Because you have seen the in-person, instruction, the creative side of choreography, and now those, the people who, everybody in dance and choreography and fitness, they're all independent contractors, and so you're your own small business. So knowing that, what do you think is the best advice for someone who maybe wants to do the same thing, like maybe needs to pick up the sequel or pick up a little, more PR, or pick up, like, is it going back to school, or is it just like diving in yourself? Like, what do you think was the best thing for you to kind of take on to make that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, and what I always recommend is doing those little experiments. So one of my favorite online resources that people can access, and I think that they have a trial membership that you can do for a few weeks, is lynda.com. So, people are going to laugh, but I'm always like, oh, you should learn about, digital marketing. A lot of choreographers, instructors, they have to manage their online presence. And there are great lesson plans with actual, like, here's how to use Illustrator. Here's how to put together a media marketing plan. And you can take these lynda.com courses that are really good and generally up to date. And I think that a lot of folks in the dance industry would be surprised at how a lot of these features, like having a verified account on Instagram or whatnot, are really within reach. And you can do a lot to boost your brand and your online presence by just doing a little bit of research and educating yourself about how to reach an audience, and setting some goals, I think, in that too, to say, hey, in this time while I'm here, I want to boost my online class attendance by X amount, and I'm going to do some experiments with maybe Instagram, scheduling, or trying to reach out on LinkedIn, or creating a marketing plan of like, who is your target audience? And I found lynda.com to be such a great resource for finding like just instruction that you can follow and boost your digital literacy. And I think people would take to it like really quickly. A lot of performers and whatnot have been marketing themselves in this industry, particularly for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that the skills translate pretty well to a digital space. It's just a matter of learning the tools.
Exactly. Well, so what's next for you? Like, you threw yourself into this new career.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have excelled at it. So what is like your ultimate goal with what you're doing? Like, are you trying to just world domination or like
Yeah. I think what I would like to do, so I always tell this to people when I look back at the transition from going from creative to more of like business and technology, I took a really sharp jump from fully creative to like immersively technical. And so I think what I would like to do, and maybe this is more of a short-term goal, but try to meld those two sides of me together and work in a space where I'm supporting creators. That's one of the reasons why I went to YouTube.
Yeah.
Is to get me a little bit closer to a place where, you know, you're working with creators and supporting them and helping them make their businesses feasible. That's not what I'm working on primarily now. So maybe that's the goal, is to transition from, you know, these hyper technical roles, maybe still doing things hyper technical, but in support of the community that I really care about. I'd say that's my hopefully next step.
Yeah.
We'll see if I can make it happen.
This is one of the things that I want to know what you do. So my mom actually, she teaches online, and she told me she had computerized the other day. She said, I have computerized. I can't keep them open right now, because she was teaching for so long in one day. So what do you do? Because you're staring at a computer, probably, or a phone a lot of your day. What do you do that helps you not get fatigued by doing that? Because I know a lot of dancers, they want to get away from all of that because they just want to create and be in the space and do that whole thing. So as someone who's now gonna, you know, teach online for someone who might use Zoom or whatever their platform is, how do you not have that fatigue? Instead of, it's not like your body fatigue, it's like a brain and like an eye fatigue. Like, what do you do to like break away?
I don't know that I'm the best representative of that, to be honest. Like, I sit here all day, I feel like, and then I still have the, luckily I still have the discipline of the dancer that says I am also a person with a body that needs to move.
Yeah.
So I try to, you know, go on a hike or do something every day to get out of this chair.
Yeah.
But I'm not good at it. I even tried setting calendar blocks to remind me to get up and move.
Okay.
Hey, drink some water. I could just sit here all day. Like, I'm not the right representative to give anyone advice on how to not stare at a screen.
I feel like I'm not either, because I just sit here too. I'm like,
yeah, you tell me.
You know, all day long.
Yeah.
Well, I just appreciate you taking the time. I know you have to go back to all of your important stuff because, you know, I'm taking you from like content creators, amazing things going on. So if you want anybody to reach out to you, is there somewhere where that you'd like them to see you or find you, as far as maybe doing that kind of collaboration and supporting like you were talking about?
Yeah. Either here on Instagram or on my LinkedIn. I'll respond to either. But if anyone has any questions about, you know, wanting to use lynda.com or maybe exploring going back to school, I'm happy to talk about that and some of the resources that I've come across specifically for dancers and creators, you know, looking to explore in those areas. I'm happy to connect with folks on that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, and I missed your face.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah,
it was good to see you.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.